Okay, let's move on to example 2. And this video for example 2 will be shorter than the first one because we've kind of established all the steps and what we need to do. Okay, so let's get started. Step 1, factor all numerators and denominators if necessary. There are no quadratics, no common factors, so no factoring is necessary. Let's move on to step 2. Establish domain restrictions. You can see very easily here and here, since these denominators are the same, that if x was equal to 8, that would make this denominator go to 0, and that would make this entire ratio undefined. So we have to establish that x cannot equal 8. That's our only domain restriction for example 2. Okay. Step 3, we're going to rewrite our equation, put a bracket around it, and multiply by the LCD, the least common denominator. Okay. Now, this is where a lot of people try to make the problem more difficult than it is by saying, oh, I must have to multiply by x minus 8 times x minus 8. And no, they're already in common with each other. Okay. So the least common denominator is just to multiply by just a single x minus 8. Okay. All right. So now let's go ahead and finish out step 3. I'm going to take that numerator of 1, multiply it by our LCD of x minus 8 over the denominator of x minus 8, okay, minus a 1 times an x minus 8. There is no denominator on that term, equals the 7 times the x minus 8. And of course, we've got that x minus 8 in the denominator. Now, a lot of you are starting to probably realize where you can skip a step here once you really figure out what's going on. Because I'm showing this step of x minus 8 over x minus 8, but then I'm eliminating those. Okay? Does everybody see how that could have happened right here? Okay? And that just leaves me with a 1. Yeah? Okay? But here I've got a negative 1 being multiplied by an x minus 8 in this second term here. Now be careful here because remember, you're not distributing a 1, you're distributing a negative 1. So I've got a negative 1 times x, so a negative x, and a negative 1 times a negative 8 gives me a positive 8. And then bring down your equal sign. Again, I've got an x minus 8 over an x minus 8, so those cancel out. That's what some of you may be seeing is happening right here, and you could show that there. Okay? So that leaves me with just 7. All right? Now, I've got like terms on the left-hand side of the equation. I've got 1 plus 8, which is 9. So I've got 9 minus x is equal to 7. Okay? Now, I'm going to choose to go ahead and make sure that my x is positive, because keep in mind, I'm not trying to solve for negative x, I'm trying to solve for x. So I'm going to move the x to the other side of the equation. So I've got 9 is equal to 7 plus x, and that means I'm going to subtract the 7. Okay, I'm showing an extra step here that I normally would not do, but 7 from the 9, of course, gives me 2. So x is equal to 2. Now the very first, that's step 4, solve for the variable, okay? So x equals 2, I'm going to compare that with my domain restriction of x not being able to equal 8. It's not part of my domain restriction, so it probably is a good solution, but even if you only get one solution, you need to actually check it, because if your one solution ends up being an extraneous solution, that means there's actually no solution to the equation. Okay, so we're going to check this one. So we're going to check x equals 2 back in the original equation, which means I've got 1 over 2 minus 8 minus 1. I'm asking myself, is that equal to 7 over 2 minus 8? So I've got 1 over 2 minus 8. 2 minus 8 is a negative 6 minus 1. Is that equal to 7 over 2 minus 8? Again, negative 6. Okay? So now, whoops. There we go. So now I want to combine these, and quite frankly, the easiest way to combine these, since I've already got common denominators, is to just go ahead and express this 1 as 6 over 6. So I've got a negative 1/6 minus 6 over 6. Is that equal to a negative 7/6? And of course, a negative 1 combined with a negative 6 gives us a negative 7 over 6, which is equal to negative 7 over 6. So that checks out, and that means x equals 2 gets a box around it because it is the solution to this example.